Hello, my name is Nikita, and you're listening to Be Do Have, a podcast about personal and spiritual journeys that will lead us to create who we want to be, do things from that place of being to have what we want and need. So today we will be talking about the evils of perfectionism, and I have the perfectionist expert, Jecara, with me. She's actually my mentor. What's up, Jecara?
Hey, glad to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to have you. So before we get started, did you want to, or did you set an intention for being on the show, or maybe an intention for your week that you would like to share?
My intention, and I love setting intentions because it really does level set what the happenings that happen, right? And then you can really ground yourself to that. So for this particular moment, my intention is to really speak slowly. And the reason for that is I get super excited about things, and just knowing your vibe, I said, you know what? I want to make sure I reach her audience and that I am vulnerable in this moment. So the intention is really to speak slowly and speak from my heart. And so that's what I plan. And that is my intention for this podcast today. And I'm super excited to be with you, Nikita.
Oh my God. I love that. I love that you're open to be vulnerable. I love your intention to speak slowly. It actually kind of set, my intention to now speak a little bit slowly because I know that I can get excited and I try, I can zoom through what I'm trying to say. So yes, I love that intention. I'm going to use that for myself. So we can go ahead and jump right into it. So by definition, a perfectionist is a person who refuses to accept any standard short of perfection. They have a personality type that strives for flawlessness and are often fixated on correcting imperfections, trying to control situations, working hard, and being critical of self and or others. Now, this topic is really interesting to me because I have identified myself as being a perfectionist, and I thought that I was this way because of my zodiac sign. And it didn't always have like negative implications on me until it did. And it made me into a person who was afraid to just be. I was afraid to make a mistake. I was afraid that everyone would notice that I didn't have it all together. And I know this is probably going to sound bizarre, but one of my biggest fears was other people would think I was stupid if I made a mistake. Now, some of that is just childhood trauma, but majority of it is because I am a Virgo, and I thought that just because I was a Virgo, this is who I am. And so I just dealt with it until I met Jecara. Now, my mom would always tell me that I don't have to be perfect, that I am entitled to fall short, that I should live a little, make some mistakes, etc. But I was thinking like, okay, this is just my mom. And I didn't really start to check myself until I started hearing you speak about it, Jecara. And you would talk about how perfection is another form of procrastination. And from that, I started to become more aware of myself and notice that situations that I felt were challenging would cause me to procrastinate. So we'll jump right into the topic. But before we do, Jecara, did you want to just tell us a little bit about who Jecara is?
Oh wow, that's so funny that you say that. And I forgot I did say that. But perfectionism is a form of procrastination, and we really think about it. Perfectionism is really a symptom to something, right? And to your point, the childhood trauma, whether who are we trying to be good for? Who are we being perfect for? And so it really plays into, if it's a symptom, then what other things are, what's really holding us back? And it takes you to do that deep retrospective and introspective. And so for myself, being a teenage mom, right? I became a mom at the age of 16. And so that was the beginning of I'm not perfect, but I tried to be anyway. So I'm a recovering perfectionist, is what I say. It's similar to like a recovering alcoholic. You'll always say, I'm an alcoholic, but you're recovering. You may have been clean for 20 years. So for myself, I've not been held back by perfectionism as much because I'm recovering. But being a teen mom, it was hard, struggling to be accepted and by others, and not have that label, because a lot of people look at you, oh, okay, you're one of those, you're a teen mom, you must not have, and there's all these assumptions and labels put upon you. So that actually turned me on to wanting to be seen as perfect. I never didn't want those statistics to be my story. So I wanted everyone to see this bright, shiny, I'm perfect, I can do everything right, and I can't do anything wrong. And because of that, that actually held me back from a lot of things. I know we're going to get deeper into the conversation a little later, but I continued on, went to school, graduated with a 4.5 GPA, went to my master's degree, got a wonderful job. And so things were just lining up. But then when they don't, whoa, that's when perfectionism really hits you, because now that turns into, that internal, you beat yourself up, you're your own worst critic, and no one else sees it but you. But you tend to live in this spiral of trying to strive for perfection versus just trying to progress. And we don't give ourselves enough grace. So anyway, that's kind of my life story. And so when things get good, I'm good. But when things go bad, I tend to go back to I have to be seen as perfect, because I don't want people to see me as anything else, and that I couldn't make it or I couldn't handle it. And that, again, was that people pleasing. I never thought I was a people pleaser, but perfectionism makes you, who are you doing it for? And so it really becomes, like I said, an introspective time. So now that, I'm on the other side, almost recovering through, I'm successful at my job. I'm a speaker, trainer, coach. I work in financial management, and it's a wonderful place. I'm a mother. Now I'm a grandmother, child. The child I had as a teenager, he's now a father. And so I'm a newly grandmother. So here's a whole nother atmosphere of, okay, how do I do this grandma thing? Oh, I'm supposed to have pictures every day. Why is everybody asking you for pictures? Boy, send me pictures. People expecting stuff. So anyway, that's a little bit about my backstory and how I got here. But my journey is always has included trying to be perfect for a reason. And I think we'll dig a little deeper as the time goes on. But that's kind of where it's coming from, is I never wanted to be seen as a statistic. So I pressed hard not to, but I think there's some negative side to that as well.
For sure. And I think mine was a little bit different than what you just described, as far as like how you tried to line all your ducks up in a row. And if one of them fell out of place or whatever, then you would really beat yourself up. I think for me, like no matter how good things were, I would always strive to be better or critique myself. And it wasn't like a healthy criticism or, like a self-motivation type of deal. Like I would literally like, what else can be better? What else can I was so with things just being as they were. So, so I guess my first question for you is, what is your definition of a perfectionist?
So the definition I tend to lean on when I think of perfectionism is the need to appear perfect, and even the belief to think that you can be. So when you're working or revolving around that idea of I need to appear, or that I even think that there's a such thing as perfect, and that it's achievable, that's the definition of perfectionism that I tend to lean on.
Okay. And would you say that there are different layers of a perfectionist, or do they all kind of just fit into like a specific box?
So I'm not sure what the right term is, layers, or it presents itself differently for a lot of people, right? And I think that, again, in my mind, perfectionism is a symptom, right? It's the need to appear. Well, why do you need to feel that? So it digs for me, I didn't want to be seen as a label. For others, it might be something that was taught. My mom was perfect and I wanted to be perfect as well. Or I didn't think I could be loved if I wasn't perfect. Or I was always, like I said, we're our own worst critic. So I wanted to be perfect. So again, you think you can achieve it. That's the symptom of why. Where's the need come from to be perfect? So I think it starts differently for people, and it presents itself differently. It can show up as procrastination. It can show up as a fear of failure. So you never get started on anything, so you can't fail at anything, right? It can show up as being a know-it-all, like, okay, I know the answer. And if you don't know the answer, you go off and figure out the answer so you can say, I know the answer. So it does present itself
Right.
differently. So whether you call it layers or it shows up different for people, in my opinion. What do you think?
Okay. So, I mean, I agree. I think that it's definitely a scale, and people kind of fit on a scale wherever their level of perfectionism falls. And I think that we kind of answered that question before, because how you viewed perfectionism and how you wanted to be seen as perfect was a little bit different than mine, right? So like with yours, it was, okay, I got to do A, B, and C, and it has to fall into place this way, and it has to look like this, and it has to be like
Mhm.
this in order for me to, be satisfied. And for me, it was, no matter what I did, I had to do more. I had to be better. I had to, dig a
Mhm.
little bit deeper. So I definitely think that there is layers to it, and it's a,
Yeah.
it's a sliding scale. But I want to ask you though, because you keep saying that you didn't want to be seen as the statistic, but I guess by you saying that, it's because you were a teen mom. So, you know, you would, if that's what you're considering a statistic, you were a statistic. So how would you, being a teen mom, not be seen as a
Yeah.
statistic at that point if you've already had the baby?
Right. So the full thought there is when you're pregnant in high school, right? So this is 20 years ago, and I doubt it's very much different now. When you're pregnant in high school, they take you out of some of your normal classes and put you in this little, we call it the pregnant class. This is all the girls who either were pregnant, just had a baby, and they tell you, look to your left and right, only one of seven of you are going to graduate high school. And it was very, very matter of fact. They weren't trying to, we just want to get you through this school year, and some of you might make it to night school, but most of you aren't going to graduate. So that's the statistic I'm talking about. Is I didn't want to become just another person who got pregnant, left, and just working a menial job, and never really work to my full potential, right? And grown to my full potential. So that's the statistics I didn't want, but that was expected. When you go to the guidance counselor and say, hey, I'm thinking about college. Oh, well, why do you want to do that, baby? Excuse me, I have straight A's, and I'm laying it out like, these were my dreams before. And so just because this is what's happened to me now doesn't mean all of my dreams are dashed. I thought it was. And I let them talk me into these things. And then I was like, oh no. And my mama said, oh no, you're not about to sit in my house and have more babies. So listen.
Let me tell you what
So
you ain't gonna do.
what you ain't gonna do, sit up in my right. So I said, I can't sit here and be that. I don't want to be seen as, okay, teen moms, their children are underweight because they don't know how to feed them. They are undereducated, and their kids become undereducated because they don't. And that was like the stigma, right? And that's what I wanted to move away from. So I had to prove that I could do this, and I could do it better than y'all ever thought I could. And I was doing it for myself and for my son, but then it held on, and it was always, like, to your point, it's always something. What else can I add to this?
Okay,
What
I
else
see
can
what you're
I
saying.
make perfect? And then now that I'm doing it, now I can't let people know there's a chink in the china. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I messed up, but people can't see that. People can't see. So I always have this, I have to appear perfect. So that no one saw that, oh, that happened because you were a teen mom. Oh, that happened because you were a single mom. Okay, that happened because I didn't want give anyone any excuses as to why why there was a mistake. So I didn't never wanted to show it. Never wanted to show that face.
Okay, so you're saying that's where it started for you. Up
I think
until that
so. Well,
point.
I could probably go deeper and say when I was 7 years old, but right about there is what
So that's
I
what you
could
can remember.
find.
Yeah. Okay. So, in your experience, are perfectionists out of touch with reality? Like, are they phony? Are they phony people by not wanting people to see what the real is and wanting them to see this perfect picture that they paint?
Yeah, I think, and I'm thinking about this question because I don't know. I don't think that they're phony. I think they show up, and then we all do. When you meet somebody, you never meet 100% of who they are. You meet their representative. My name's Jecara. Nice to meet you. And I'm gonna be nice and kind and pleasant. But then, once I start peeling back those onion layers, and now you get to know who I really am. So, but with perfectionist, it's I always want to appear perfect. So no matter how long I know you, there are certain layers you'll never see because I want to be sure that I'm coming off in the light that I want to share with you. So when you say phony, I think that might be the right word because I never really know the real you. I don't expect to know the real you when I first meet you, but as I'm learning and I'm with you and we're building and growing together, I would expect some layers to kind of fall and that vulnerability to show. So as long as you're hiding that and you're not being vulnerable, there's a piece of you that's always fake. There's a piece of you, there's always a mask on. And with perfectionism, I think, and even in your case, right, I'm always looking to do better and best. That doesn't allow other people to come alongside and just be them, right? They feel like, okay, if I'm not growing the same way Nikita growing, then I'm not the right circle or something, or they feel like they can be put off by that. So for them, it's like, okay, that's too much.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I think it can
There's
be
too much. Now, do you feel like everyone comes with a mask on? Like, do you think we're all mask wearers when we first meet someone? Because I've met people who were hella vulnerable and I would be like, what the fuck? Like, this person is crazy. They laying it all out on the table. And I would listen to like, Dr. Brene Brown, and she would speak about like how these vulnerable people are, the most happiest. You know what I mean? Like, in life, because they're not afraid to show their scars. They're not afraid to show where they come from and still stand up and say that I'm deserving and that I'm worthy. So like, do you really feel like everyone sends a representative?
No, and in that case, and to that point, no, but I haven't met very many people like that. And when you do, it's so refreshing and you never forget those people, right? You're like, I want to hang around with her more often.
They
like,
scare
I
me.
Around with him more often.
For sure. They used to scare the shit out of me. Like, seriously, like it would like, and I didn't even know that it was happening. It was just like, I'm running from this person because this person is just showing me all types of ugly and are still very beautiful. They were very courageous. And, now I learn from them. But before, yes, I would fucking run the other way as fast as I could.
Yeah, and I would run too. I remember ago, it was like that's how I felt was okay. If they're that real, I'm not ready to be that real, so I'm definitely not gonna be able to be their friend for too long. Like we'll hang and I'll listen to your stories, but please don't ask me no questions because I ain't telling you nothing about me.
But for real, but I mean, at least you. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's really good self-awareness because I thought that it was at first that it was something wrong with them. That they're being too emotional, they're being too vulnerable and something is wrong with this person, so that's really good self-awareness that you had when you can say, yeah, this person is too real and I ain't ready to match their realness. Like I'm gonna take my representative, bring your ass back. Come on, let's go the other way. So my next question for you is the relationship between perfectionism and anxiety. Like, how closely do you think they bond?
So anxiety is really kind of a feeling of worry and fear, and perfectionism can be rooted in fear or fear of failure or a fear to be found out. That's where we get the term imposter syndrome. There's a fear that the minute that I mess up, someone's gonna figure out that I'm not perfect. So I think they are aligned in the fact that the emotions that follow perfectionism are worry and fear, and that's really what anxiety is. So in that respect, I would say, yeah, they definitely can be closely aligned. And again, it depends on how perfectionism presents for certain people. For me, I never thought I was very anxious in my perfectionism. It was just a matter of let me just keep my mask up, right? But I think it does wear on you because you can't wear that mask. You can't be that perfect, even if it's just I'm trying to be more and more and more perfect. There's no way you can, and that will build up a lot of emotion, and that'll hold you back for sure.
So you believe that they just come from the same place, which is fair because all of those low vibrational energies. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I could definitely see a correlation between the two because, like you were saying, you're trying to, you know, obtain this, hold up this image, and
Mm-hmm.
once people are onto you, or once you feel like people are, are gonna become aware that you're not perfect and that you don't have it all put together, like I can see how that can cause some anxiety and some worry, and and I can also see how that can lead to like criminal activity for like some of those stories that you hear on like what was that one station that played Lifetime, like a Lifetime story, like trying to
Mm-hmm. Oh
keep
yeah.
this picture
The
perfect
facade up.
image. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about imposter syndrome though, because I feel like if if I'm alongside of someone and they don't have imposter syndrome, like they're always like cool, calm, and collective. I got it. Like, and not saying that like I'm sitting beside a stranger. Like I'm sitting beside somebody who I've known for a long time, or who I worked with for a long time, and they're always just going into like challenges and going into whatever really cool, calm, and collective. Like they're very suspect to me because I feel like we all have that imposter syndrome when we're stepping into unfamiliar territory. I think that is a natural reaction to the unfamiliar. Like, can you kind of speak to your version of imposter syndrome and the people who wear those hats, or the people who don't wear them?
Well, because my when I think about imposter syndrome, so for those out in our listening audience, imposter syndrome to me is a similar definition of perfectionism. It's this idea that you're appearing perfect, or that you appear that you have it all together, and it shows up in different ways. And perfectionism is one of those ways that you have to be 100% performance ready, and your work must always look like it's A+, right? It could also show up, to your point, you're in an office setting. They show up as an expert. They feel like they have to know everything. And if they don't, then someone's going to find out that they're not perfect, and they're going to feel like an imposter. So when I think of imposter syndrome, I really see it more as people don't think they belong in that space. To your point, that's a natural feeling you should have when you're new to the group, you're new in your role, you're new as a parent, you're new at whatever. You're not going to have it going on. So the natural would be, okay, let me pretend, let me not just act. I don't know anything. Let me ask questions. Let me take notes. So when you walk in a space and you just present this, I got it all together look, you just got hired, boo. You don't know nothing. Why are you acting? So I'd be suspect too, honestly. Or I have to do it all myself.
Yeah.
I meet people, and when I'm in a work setting and I'm training, they're like, "Oh, I got that. I'll figure it out." Like, don't waste your time. I'm here to train you. I got training guys. I even wrote a how-to. But you want to be the soloist. You want to. I got this, and I got it on my own. I want to be seen as. You don't have to fake it with me. I know you don't know it. So I can see why. Yeah,
sure.
the whole idea of I don't have it all together is not necessarily the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is when you act like you do. Just go on and own it. You don't have it all together.
Right.
You don't understand it all. And I'd rather you come with that kind of attitude, or come in that kind of spirit. So then I know we're both learning and growing together versus, the mask, or the fake, or the I'm perfect and we really know you're not.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because like I definitely have imposter syndrome. I had imposter syndrome when I first got hired at Lockheed Martin, but I didn't go into it arrogant and cocky like, oh, I have this many years of, work experience and these skills and I'm going to come and kill it. Like I was just really quiet. And I didn't say shit. I didn't ask for help when I knew I needed help. Like I was just like, oh my God, these people are going 50 miles a minute, and will I ever be able to catch up? So, all right. So, do you believe a perfectionist mentality is born or is made? And I know, like speaking from personal experience for yourself, you kind of identified when you felt like it was brought on, but like in general.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's that conversation of nature versus nurture with a lot of the things we go through. I do think that a lot of issues that we find ourselves in, perfectionism is one that it can be, I say nature, right? Because if you're in a line, a lineage of people who have the same issue, there's something going on there, right? If my mama had it and my grandmama had it and everyone else in my line, I can see something that there might be something that's holding tight to that, right? I do think a lot of it is learned though, and it can be unlearned as well. So that's when I'm thinking of nature versus nurture, born versus made. The fact that you can overcome it tells me that there's a lot to do with just learning how to deal with the emotions behind it. So in my mind, it's more made. It's more the environment that you're in that causes perfectionism to stick around or stay. I do believe it can be unlearned and overcome with, first of all, self awareness. You have to know that this is not how it has to be. Like you said, I'm a Virgo. This is how I'm always going to be. Well, you're always going to be that way. But when you truly say, you know what,
Right.
this is something that I can overcome, and I don't have to live like this, then you work toward that. So the number one is the self awareness, and then there's some tools you have to try to overcome it. What do you think about that? Nature
Like,
versus
but like,
nurture.
well, what I'm thinking, where I'm coming from it is like in terms of like it's written all throughout my son's zodiac sign, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
this personality trait identifies very closely with a Virgo. They're all, perfectionists and they want to be perfect and all of this and all of that. So I don't really remember if it's something that I always had or if it's something that I developed over time. Like, but I
Mm-hmm.
do remember like being a child and like wanting like all of my hairs to like be smooth and be long. Like I didn't want any frizzies or anything like that. Like I do remember being very detail oriented and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be well put together and wanting to, I always had like security and I didn't have to worry about that. But like, as far as like my personal identity, I did for as long as I can remember, strive for that. And I can remember when I felt like I lost control of it and I couldn't be that, like I numbed it with, other stuff that I'm not going to say
See,
right
so
here, but I kind of like numbed myself because I didn't want to deal with my reality that I wasn't perfect.
yeah,
So
and I
I
think
don't know, maybe.
And I think we've been leaning on the conversation of perfectionism and the negative trait, right? So there's a difference between um, striving to be better and for progression, and it's this need to be perfect. So that's the part where, so if as a Virgo you have perfection tendencies, there's nothing wrong with the idea of I'm striving to be perfect, as long as this obsession of being perfect isn't there. And that's the difference for me is, striving to be perfect, it could very well say I'm just striving to be better. But if you're really striving to be perfect 100% of the time, all the time, that's unattainable and unachievable. And that's the part where I think that's created. What we and that's what can be unlearned and unmade. The idea that I just want to be better all the time and strive, I think there is a difference there. We use the word perfect in that sense, but it's really not perfection. We're not striving. We shouldn't be striving for perfection. We should be striving for progress. We should be striving for improvement versus striving for perfection. So when we think of perfection, being perfect doesn't have to be a negative thing as long as there's not an obsession to it, if that makes sense. So there's like that nuance there.
I mean, I don't know though, because number one, I don't know. I feel like words have power. So if I say
Mm-hmm.
I'm striving to be perfect, like even if I don't really have full command on like what I'm saying, like that's what naturally I'll flow towards. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, striving to be perfect is if this perfection, this reality, it doesn't even exist, like I say that, then that means that I'm trying to create something that is unattainable. Like I can't even get there. And then two, I'm not really 100% on, how this reads in the Bible verbatim. So I'll paraphrase, but in the Bible, isn't it written that we're all perfect, or no one was perfect but Jesus? Like one of the two. I can't really remember
It
which one it
actually says
was, but
both.
like we're perfectly created in the likeness and the image of God. Yeah. So yeah, like we're perfectly created in the likeness and in the image of God. So like, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's just contradictory, I feel like. So it's like, on one sense, it doesn't exist, but in the other sense, like my definition and my version of perfection can be enough for me. So it's a fine line.
Right. And then that's why I said there's that nuance. Like, what's your definition of perfect? If I'm saying perfect just means progression or improvement, then reach for that all day. But if you're looking for perfect, like I said, if we're looking at the definition of the Bible, Jesus was the only one that was perfect. And if we can't be Jesus, then why are you striving for perfection? But you're not striving for that type of perfection. So you're right. Word means power, or words have power. But I also believe our English language cuts us short, because in the Bible, it's in Hebrew or Aramaic, and their word for perfect, there's like 15 different underlying meanings behind that. So we got to figure out the Latin root word. Girl, we got some study to do. You're going to start quoting scripture. We got to do the hermeneutics.
That's true.
And figure out what
that's true. That's true. That's true.
So like
that's
I said,
true.
I do totally agree with you. Words have power, and that's why I prefer to say, I'm striving for progress. I'm striving for improvement, because I don't want to confuse myself that I'm striving for perfection, because I don't want my kids then.
So are you saying
that they have to as well?
Right. So are you saying that you believe that when people say they're striving for perfection, they're really striving for the next best thing, and they're just using perfection as a placeholder, as something to kind of reach for?
That's what I teach,
or is that just
and that's
like
what
how
I
it
hope
is for
for.
you?
If I do know, to your point, there are those out there who are really looking for perfection, and they just can't get enough until they reach it. And I think that's the toxic side of that. And my hope in my teaching, when I'm coaching and I'm mentoring, I lean toward, let's not do that, boo. Let's lean, and I try to, relanguage, so it helps to refocus their growth. And that, by the time, even if you could reach perfection in one thing, you're going to change. We're always changing and growing. How do we ever reach perfection? Like, what is perfection, right? So what's the definition of that? If I'm a different person than I was 10 years ago. I'm a completely different person than I was a year ago. And matter of fact, this weekend I became a grandma. So now I'm a completely different person I was 3 days ago, So if I'm reaching this perfection, how do we ever get there if we're always evolving, always growing, always learning? So let's take the journey versus trying to find this one spot of perfection that we're trying to get to.
That makes sense. So what would your definition or your level of perfection be? If you were to say, I'm striving for perfection, but in reality, you're striving for improvement, like what would that look like? What would that be like for you?
Yeah, that's going to look different in every area of my life, right? So, as a business owner, being a speaker, a trainer, and a coach in that space, for me, that looks like being consistent. Because I can speak all day and give a keynote, but trying to update to social media every day is like a whoa, right? So perfection to me, right?
Oh, girl, I know.
Okay, I can't.
We need some assistance. We need an assistant. That's what we need.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
We manifest an assistance.
Yes, virtual assistant come our way. Yes.
Virtual assistant.
Yes, but when it comes to that realm, I'm still learning how to do things. I'm still doing things for the first time. So to me, in that realm, striving for progress and improvement is getting something down, and I get it in a repeatable process. Like, that's what success would look like for me. Not perfection, but success is I've learned a skill and I can repeat it. And then what would be even better, I can pay someone else to do it. You know what I'm saying? manifesting that VA.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Okay, but like what I'm saying is like your ideal. Like when you see Jecara at 98,
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that you will want to achieve that you would say, okay, my life was perfect. I fulfilled my ultimate destiny. Like my life was perfect. Like what would that look like? And do you feel like it's attainable how it plays out in your head?
No, I feel like, so I'm 98, I'm thinking legacy, right? Because in my mind, no matter, and I learned this with my kids. I have 4 kids. My oldest is 23, my youngest is 10. No matter what I think I've done perfectly, they're going to receive it in a completely different way. I have my older 2 kids, my younger 2, and they remember life very differently. Live in the same household, but they remember things very
Oh,
differently. I thought I
yes.
spent a lot of time with them. I took time off work. Mom, you were never home. Like, what you talking about? I was never home, right? I thought I was perfect in that regard because I was
All the
checking my
parties I
boxes.
passed up.
Come on now. I could have been out in the club. And I said no. So it's like, because we're having life with other humans, right? So for me at 98, looking back, did I live my passions? Um, did I give my all? Did I have a list of goals and did I reach them, right? Or was I trying to attain them? I may not actually reach them all, but did I live my life fearlessly? That's what I would see at the end of life is I didn't let the scary things hold me back. I didn't let other people's opinion of me hold me back. So living a fearless, an open and vulnerable life would uh, be something that I would call perfect. Because I don't know, and I'm not going to do it perfectly, right? I truly believe we are perfectly imperfect. So who you are, you're right for someone. You know what I mean? And especially in my space of mentoring and coaching, I always felt like I had to have arrived before I can teach somebody else to get there. But I learned that my 70% where I am, I may not have reached it all. If somebody else is 110%, like me and my little bit can help push somebody a little bit further. So at the end of my life, I'd love to look back just to say, I gave my all. I lived in my passions of speaking and lifting other people up and inspiring others. And I did that with an abandonment, right? Here you go, take it all. And didn't let other things hold me back. So no matter how it turned out, if no one heard me, if I didn't make $1 in my speaking business, oh well, but I did, what my passions are.
Yes, I love that. And you know what? I feel like it's something that, and when I say something, that's, me having to check myself as far as wanting to be perfect and wanting to appear perfect. I constantly have to do that. And I think it's very humbling because like I've been on this spiritual journey for some time now. And, I choose peace all the time and I choose love. And I'm like so zen, I'm so open and I'm, constantly doing shadow work. And how can I, just trying to like eradicate childhood trauma and identify them and become aware of them and move past them and all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And today I did some ratchet shit. And so
just like that.
At first I did some ratchet. Like, I'm like, how did I get back to that? Like, how me, someone who's always checking myself and always aware, or so I say, like, how can I allow myself to go down to somebody else's level? And it just kind of like taught me today, like, girl, this is a lifetime school. This is something that you ain't gonna like master. Nope. You will probably never, you can get over it and you can get through it, but it's gonna still happen. And I think it just depends on like how you respond to it and to give yourself that grace and to know that, yo, I reacted like that. That may not be who I identify with, but it is what it is. And I'm still good. Like I'm still okay. And the saga continues. So I love that. I learned that today. And I just thought that was pretty cool. So I know that you spoke about where you felt like this mindset, this mentality of perfectionism started for you, but like, can you kind of go into a little bit more detail on like how it showed up in your life post graduating high school and college?
Yeah. For me, it showed up in, I was, I laugh because my friends know that I'm a know-it-all, right? And I'm a know-it-all because I never wanted anyone to think I didn't know something. So I'm like the human Google. Ask me anything, and even if I don't know it, I'll make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. You're gonna be like, "Oh, for real? I didn't know that." And I'm like, "Mm-hmm. So you're right." So, and I always say it with so much confidence, but what that does, that turns people off because after a while, it's like, oh, Jakara's just going to give us facts again, right? And it
Here comes
becomes this,
Jecara.
and I also didn't want to show emotion. That was another part of, if I show emotion, then I get out of control. And a part of my perfectionism was being in control. So I was very clear that I'm not the emotional person you come to. If you want to cry, I'll sit there, but oh, sorry, you're crying. So I was
Girl,
very kind
that
of
was so
stoic.
me. That was so me. Like, and I was like the opposite of an empath. Like, because I would not feel your emotion. I would not put myself in your shoes. It was almost like I don't know, like how I blocked it with the Matrix, and going back in the emotions, it's like, yeah, that is not living. But I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
No. So look, so you know what I'm talking about, right? There was the block there.
I got
so that you don't really connect with certain people because people want that. They want to feel connected. And when you just have this block up and like, sorry about your luck, when you're ready to laugh or go out, then, call me. But until then, not much for you. But what it really did, so even in I think the biggest holdback for me was with my kids. So my oldest daughter, she's very questionable, curious, and why mommy and ask me this and what about you? And I always felt like, oh, I can't tell you about my past when I was all jacked up and messed up and things and I kind of shut down a little bit. But I realized that if I'm not telling her about all of my mistakes, then she's hearing it from someone else and she's going to end up trying. And that was my other fear too. If I talk too much, she's going to try to do everything I did. And I don't need nobody doing that. So, but what I learned is you want to be open and vulnerable, and they can take the information. I'd rather them hear it from me and hear how I overcame than hear it from a friend who's going through some craziness and she's hearing about it for the first time that way. And then the other part was because she never felt like I could relate. Oh, mom, you don't understand. You never had to go through this. Oh, mom, you don't understand. You didn't. So whether it was boys or it was school or, whatever the occasion was, she always saw me as perfect. Oh, you always knew what you wanted to do in life, mom. You never had any mistakes. The only thing she knew, oh, you just had a baby when you were a teenager. That's it. Everything else was perfect in your life. But that's because I kept up this facade of, I need everyone to know how perfect and wonderful I am. And we couldn't relate until I could take my wall down. And now with my younger two, I'm able to be a lot more open. And they're probably just like, mom, that's a little too much. Okay, I'm not ready for that. But whatever, you're going to hear it now.
How difficult was that for you to keep those masks on at home? Because, home for a lot of people is peace. Like that's where they can take the masks off. They can send their representatives away. You're off duty. Like how difficult was that for you to hold back? And did you feel like you were really doing her a favor and not a disservice?
Mm-hmm. For me, I think the one person I could be real with was my husband. So I had that opportunity and that release, and he accepted me the way I was, emotionless and all of that. He was.
But was it like behind closed doors?
It was, because it was the minute I walked out my bedroom, then my kids were there, and it's like, hey, mommy has to go to work today, and I'm having a great day, and I'm always usually very positive anyway and optimistic, but I felt like I had always had to have that on, and it wasn't really hard because, like I said, I'm usually in that realm, and I just kind of kept it on. And it wasn't until it was like, okay, now I can go to bed tonight, and I could just release. But it really wasn't until my oldest daughter was in high school that I even felt comfortable enough to just be me. And that was about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. So when I say I'm a recovering perfectionist, I'm real about that, for real.
Okay. So, since you've been there, done that, you've worn it, you've wrapped yourself around, you've immersed yourself in it, and you said that you are a recovering perfectionist, like what advice would you give to those of us who are still struggling with that perfectionism hat?
Yeah, there's a couple things, tools that I'll share that worked for me, and I'd love to hear things that, like you said, being aware is number one. So anything that's worked for you as well. But when I find myself, um, what's the word, beating myself up, I realized, treat yourself like you would a friend, right? If your friend was going through something and they were trying to, make everything look right, you would tell them, give yourself grace. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. No one's expecting that for you. And then I have to bring that back to me, reflect that back on me. I'm like, why am I so hard on myself? Why do I have myself at a different standard than I would my friend if we're all trying to level up together? Um, the other item would be is changing for me, changing my know it all to a learn it all kind of mentality. So with my daughter, even I said, well, tell me more about that. Because I always felt like if she asked me a question, I had to know the answer. Well, why do boys do this? And, why does TV show that? And why do women have it? I'm like, I felt like I had to have this textbook answer. And I just start saying, you know what, girl, I don't know why we do that. Well, I don't know why, there's a double standard between girls and boys. And let's talk that out. So I became more of a learn it all so that I could relate to people and really learn where they are. And they realize, all right, Jecara doesn't know every answer, but she's willing to talk it out. But then that also takes me to the taking action is another item that I did was analysis paralysis. I think is another symptom of perfectionism because you overthink things. You're trying to get it perfect and you take so long to think through things. I realized just do it. Take imperfect action and lean in and learn and then fix it along the way. Trying to wait till things are perfect is not the answer. And that'll get you stuck. That'll keep you procrastinating. So just depending on the area of life, it was a little bit of all those things. And the last part that I still struggle with is taking time for self-care and fun. I think if you celebrate the progress that you've made, then you're not so stuck on what you're trying to reach, this state of perfection or this next level. Celebrate along the way. Celebrate the milestones you already have. Enjoy the journey. And I think that's what we forget is that we're always reaching. We don't realize how far we've come. But that's one thing I still struggle with is the celebrate part. Because I'm still like, I can't celebrate until I reach the goal. I can't reach until I've hit
I get
success.
it.
But it's progress.
And it's
progress.
And I think for me, like, it's a little bit annoying. And this is probably because I struggle too to celebrate the progress. Is when people always have to announce every step of the way on some shit that they doing. Like, yo, like, I'm tired of hearing about every A you made on your paper. I'm tired of hearing that you doing whatever. It's like it almost, I don't know. It's like kind of like borderline showing off to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. Am I tripping? Like, what's the difference? Like, what's the line in the sand there with celebrating and like just showing like you just got to address the world and tell the world of every little detail and every corner that you make in life? Like, what's the line there?
I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on that? Girl, I don't know. I don't know the difference because I promise you, like I said, I still struggle with the celebration piece. So I don't see the purpose of those extra. To me, they're super small. But what I've learned for me is what's my ultimate goal? Let me break it down into the milestones. And when I reach the milestone I've set, then that's my celebrate, right? So someone else may celebrate something much smaller, but I've laid it out what I expect. And what I'll also say is celebrate the actions, not the results. So if you're trying to, gain 50 pounds or lose 50 pounds, then instead of saying at 10 pounds, I'll celebrate, say, when I go to the gym 3 days a week for a month, at the end of the month, I'm buying myself some shoes, I'm getting a massage, I'm doing whatever. So no matter what the result is, whether you lost 10 pounds that month or not, you set your intention and you kept that intention, you kept that goal for yourself. So That's kind of the celebration I've decided to
I'm
do, is base it on the action, not the result. What? Why are you
I'm
laughing?
sorry, but it's really funny that you use the game, I'm trying to lose weight example, because I feel like when I was like on this journey to lose this, whatever weight I was trying to lose, like I would always at the end of the week, since I ate so clean during the week, like on Friday, hey, I'm about to buy me some pizza, and then it just kind of snowballs until like on by Monday, I'm like, I hate myself. I freaking like did too like that is very dangerous when you try to reward
Hmm.
yourself on a weight loss journey. I feel
Yeah.
like for
And
me it
don't reward
was.
yourself with the opposite effects, right? So take yourself to a movie and have 100-calorie
I think
popcorn or
that's the
something, but
thing,
don't.
right? Right.
Oh man. Don't be
I
going
was
out to
like,
dinner
yeah, I'm
because this
going
is
to
our cheat
drink.
week. Right? No,
Right.
that's not right.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to be very careful when you do
Yes.
celebrate the small wins and the small victories, because
Hmm.
it can get a little dangerous at times. But
Set it in advance.
yeah,
That's the
that
other
was
thing. Put it in advance. I think that'll be good.
put it in advance. There you go. And then too, like I feel like if you deprive yourself, and that's what a lot of people do when they go on like weight loss journeys, they deprive themselves of certain things. And I feel like when
Hmm.
you resist things, you actually bring it more closely to you. And
Yeah.
so when you do get a little sample of it, it just kind of like spirals out of control, and, you can definitely
Agreed.
mess some stuff up. Yeah. Put some dents in some stuff. I ain't even gonna, I'm guilty of it. So
I
it's all good.
love it.
But that was my last question I have for you. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on social
Yes, yes,
media?
yes. You can find me Instagram or Facebook at Jecara Rivera, and that's the same on either one. You can join my 10-day transformation. I love this. It's a 10-day. I drop a little bit off in your email box every day about little tips that you can do to make this transformation journey, right? And we talk about, perfectionism. We just need to be 1% better every day. If we could just strive for just let me just be a little bit better. So I'm giving you tips on, how to uh, embrace feedback, how to take responsibility for yourself, how to use, mindfulness in your journey to success. So, or in through success, because I believe success is a journey, not the destination. So you can find me on my website at jacararivera.com/10, the number 10 day, and join that challenge. And again, it's all about that personal growth to become a better version of yourself. But one thought that just came to me, Nikita, was, we talk about how do we overcome perfectionism. And one thought that continues to stay in my mind is don't personalize it. Don't personalize failure. So, in your goal and
Ooh,
striving to be better, perfect,
that's a good one.
improve, whatever words you use there, if you fail, which we will, if you get rejected, which you will, like we're not perfect beings, we're not going to make it every time, but don't personalize it that you failed. Now I'm a failure, right? I messed up. I'm a mistake. When you translate those two things, that's what holds you back and keeps you from trying again and building the confidence to continue. So don't personalize failure. And my mentor would say, don't make a singular incident a global phenomenon. So that one thing that happens, you'll
I
ruminate on
like
that thing
that.
and blow it all the way out of proportion. Don't do that. Don't sit, don't dwell, don't get stuck in a spiral when things don't go your way. Because life will happen and some things happen to you that you didn't even expect. And it wasn't even you, but we hold it against ourselves. Don't do that. And as you continue your growth journey, the other thought I'll leave you is you're allowed to be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the exact same time. You are
Yes, I
perfectly
love
imperfect. You are a
that.
masterpiece right now, even though you're a work in progress. So own that. I'm a masterpiece. I got this, but I'm a work in progress
That's
at
that's
the
a divine
exact
that's a
same
divine
time.
dichotomy. That's what that is. Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a divine
Yeah,
dichotomy. It's like, yeah, I can
I
be
love it.
both. And I think this 10-day journey, I'm definitely gonna have to, be a part of that, only because I struggle too with not being satisfied by the small chunks and by the little things. Like
Mm,
I have to put a dent into something in order to feel like I'm starting to starting to be successful or starting to achieve whatever goal it is
yeah.
that I set out to achieve. So I think that's very powerful. I think that's something that we can all learn from. And I'll definitely go on this journey with you, this
Okay.
10-day challenge. I'm
Whoop,
always
whoop.
up for a challenge.
You can do anything for 10 days, so come
But
on.
yeah, yeah. So I thank you for joining, Jecara. Thank you for, just dropping the gems. And until next time, take care of yourself and be true to whoever it is that you desire to be.